So when you receive your scanner, if you take it out of the box and plug it into the wall, you then use this button at the top, the green button, to switch it on, and you'll be presented with this screen here. And the first thing you want to do is connect it to the Wi-Fi. So if you click this button here at the top, and then the Wi-Fi option, you can then connect to the Wi-Fi in your practice. You'll have an individual login which will be set up by your practice manager. So if you choose your doctor's name and then pop your email address in, if you press remember me, then that will already be pre-populated when you turn the scanner on. You then pop your password in and press login, and you're then ready to scan the patient. So we're now going to set up the scanner for a restorative patient. So if you click new scan, unless the patient's had a scan before, in which case you can go on the patient option. You then need to input the patient information. So if I put myself in here, anything with a red star next to it, you will need to fill in, but I would recommend filling out the other fields just in case there's two patients with the same name. And you can see here when I put my name in that I'm loaded as an existing patient on the scanner. So if I click that, it'll pre-populate the fields for me. On case type, you'll then go down to restorative. And you'd use this if you were scanning for crowns, bridges, veneers, retainers from your local lab, not Vivera retainers, anything restorative. And you can then choose who you send the work to. Your scanner will come with all ceramics pre-populated onto it, which is the Roderick's lab, and we'll then pop a due date in. It does pre-populate it with a 2-week date, so if you're doing a scan for retainers, you might want it back a little bit sooner. Next, you can choose whether you want to do a pre-treatment scan. What this means is that you scan the patient's teeth before doing any treatment, and that can be useful for the lab so they can see what the tooth looked like before. And then obviously, depending on what you're doing, you'll choose the specific tooth. So for example, if I choose this tooth here, I can pick an option. So I'll pop a crown in. It will then bring you to this page, and you can pick the material. You can tell the lab what margins that you'll be putting on that crown, and also the shade. You can add additional notes aside from these drop-down boxes. When this is all finished, it will show you on the scanner which tooth you've selected to prepare and the information that you've input here. You can do multiple teeth, so if I wanted to prepare this tooth as well, you'd go through the same process. When all of this is finished, you can add some notes at the bottom. And again, once you've filled out this page, if you click the scan option, you're then ready to scan the patient. This is an example of a patient who was scanned for restorative work, so they had a crown on their upper left 6. And when you do a restorative case, you'll be prompted by the scanner to scan different areas at different points. So if we click just on the top arch and number 1, you can see this is the pre-treatment scan. If we click over to number 2, this is the scan that was done after the preparation of the full arch. And if we click on the preparation, this is the high definition scan of the preparation. We then did a scan of the lower teeth, so the lab know what they look like, and then the teeth and occlusion, so the lab are able to see how much space they've got. Another good tool you can use is this tool here on the side. So if you click here, it will show you how much clearance you have. So on this prepared tooth, we have just under 1 millimetres clearance. So in this case, we might want to go back and re-prep those areas and then just take a scan of that particular tooth. That's a lot easier than obviously if an impression was taken and then you re-prepared the tooth, you would need to take a whole new impression. So it just makes the process a little easier for you. So we're now going to set up the scanner for an Invisalign patient. If it's a patient that's been in before, you can click Patients and choose the appropriate patient from the list. Or if it's a new patient, click New Scan. You then need to input the patient information. So if I put myself in here, anything with a red star next to it, you will need to fill in. But I would recommend filling out the other fields just in case there's two patients with the same name. And you can see here when I put my name in that I'm loaded as an existing patient on the scanner. So if I click that, it'll pre-populate the fields for me. We then move on to case type. If we click the drop down, we can see there's a few different options. If you are seeing an Invisalign patient, I would recommend always using the Invisalign and iRecord option, because that allows you to use this scan and get an outcome simulator from it. If, for example, you clicked the Vivera option, then that can only be used for Vivera retainers and not for an outcome simulator. You'll then have the option whether it's the initial record, whether it's a new patient, progress record if you're getting some additional aligners, or the final record if the patient has finished their treatment. So in this case, we'll click initial record, and you can also add any notes at the bottom if you wish. You can come back to this page throughout the process, but if we click the scan, it'll then take you to the page that allows you to do the scan of the patient. So we're now ready to scan the patient. The first thing you'll need to do is remove the protective scanner shield and replace it with a disposable scanner head, which will be used obviously just for one patient. And so always hold it in the middle, don't cover the fan at the bottom end, and it will also give you more control when you're scanning the patient's teeth. You can see here that the lower teeth are highlighted in blue. So we'll start with the lower teeth, scan those, and then move on to the uppers. If you do need to go back at any point though, you can just click the lower teeth and do any additional scanning. Always turn the overhead light off because that can affect the scan, and make sure the patient's teeth are dry, so get them to have a swallow and either use your 3-in-1 tip or the aspirator. You can stop at any time and give the patient a break and then carry on with the scan. A difficulty many people have is if the patient has a missing tooth. If you imagine my fist is the tooth, you always scan the occlusal surface first and then go over to the buccal and over to the lingual. If the tooth next door is missing, you then pop the scanner over to the buccal and then move it along the gingiva to pick up the gingiva and then back on top of the tooth. So you use the gingiva as a guide instead. So we're now ready to scan the patient. So obviously make sure that your patient has safety goggles and a bib on just in case. We'll ask the patient to swallow and then we'll dry their teeth with the 3-in-1 tip. If we start at the back, as I say, on the occlusal surface, you can pull the lip out of the way. Look at the screen as you're doing it, so you can see that the teeth are being picked up, and we'll just go all the way around on the occlusal surface. Then go around onto the lingual. And then onto the buccal. At the front, the incisor teeth are always a little bit more difficult because the lip can get in the way. So you may want to sort of stop and have a little break. Blue areas are the areas that we haven't got yet. So obviously I've not done the buccal on the right side yet, so we'll go around and do that, and then we'll pick up any other areas that are blue. So if we start at the back again, like I say, always start on the occlusal surface, and you can see that the scanner's picked that up, and when the whole arch appears, they've put that together now. Over around onto the buccal area. And then we'll go back over those blue areas. That the only areas that we've got left to scan are just this bit at the front, and once we've done that area we'll move on to the top teeth.